Okay, so there's this concept about the master bowman, right? The master bowman does 5 actions all at once. And so he beats anybody who, any other bowman. Let's say you got a guy on a horse and he's going against another guy on a horse, and all they have are bows to defend themselves. What is the process of taking out your opponent? Well, you have to pull the arrow out of the, I forget what it's called, out of the holster, let's say that. You got to pull it out of where it is held, and then you have to put it to the string, right? You have to pull the bow back, you have to aim at your opponent, and you have to also, you're also fighting against the vibrations from the horse, bouncing up and down, and the horse moving. So you're fighting against 2 other things while you're aiming at your opponent. Who is going to win in that scenario? The person who has to do 5 actions, or the person who just does 1 action? Now, you might be saying, okay, obviously it takes 5 actions to, fire the arrow. How can it be 1 action? Well, what I'll say is that it is a phenomenon that exists. So take my word on it, and also you can find some resources where, people explain this concept. There's something that goes on with the archer who does all 5 of those things in one motion. He does them a lot faster and a lot more accurate. When you're balancing 5 things, it's difficult. You have like 5 trays, and you have to like balance them. You have to keep them up. Whereas if you just have one, you just have 1 tray, just balance the one. It's easy. Practically, to do anything requires many different simultaneous actions. To even lift my arm above my head, how many muscles am I using? I'm using a lot of different muscles. And I'm doing something with my hand, that there's even more muscles. Am I thinking about each one of those muscles that lifts my hand above my head? No, I'm not thinking about any of them. It is one swift action. So if I'm to catch a ball, like a football, I'm going to catch it like this, right? That's many different things going on at one time. You've seen videos of somebody throws a football, and all of a sudden, the guy looks up and he sees it at the last second and instantly catches it. How many actions is going on in that split second? Probably more than 5. Anyone who has to think about more than 1 action at that split second is not catching that ball. So too can we do more complicated actions like firing an arrow at your opponent on horseback. You could say that somebody who practices archery on horseback for 10, 20 years could never become a great archer on horseback. Why? Because if you train up each action individually, so much so that you continue to think about each and every action. I train up drawing the arrow, right? I've trained it up so many times, I've made a checklist in my head, right? I'm so smart for making this checklist. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I get the draw down perfectly. I get the pull the arrow back perfectly. I get each one of these actions perfectly. I get my aiming perfectly. Okay, remember, move against the horse, right? And move and follow your enemy, right? Follow your target ahead of the target. All these things I'm thinking about individually. And I think I'm going to go out into the battlefield and I'm going to dominate my opponent. And as I'm pulling out the arrow, he's already let loose his. I've been training for 20 years. I thought I would dominate. I'm really good at each individual action of the 5. I'm great at all 5, but it's still, I'm doing 5 actions and he's doing 1. So he wins. What am I trying to get at? There's like a time travel thing going on here. There's something that we can tap into where we literally become time travelers in a way. We do actions that are faster than seemingly humanly possible, but yet it is possible. But it's kind of like a magic trick. Well, let's look at a magic trick. Sleight of hand. You practice sleight of hand enough. You can't see your hand. You put the card from your pocket into your palm, right? Just like boom, instantaneous. And then you move it back. And now it's in your pocket again. Is that not like actual magic? You train it up enough, it's kind of like it's actual magic. Because nobody else could do that. It would take, you try and explain the steps. Oh, you do this and you do that and you do this and you do that. And someone's like, there's no way you have all that time to do all of those actions of putting the card in your pocket. You got to go this way and this way and that way and that way. And you got to move your finger like that. And you got to do this and that. And you're just doing it like that. You literally go like this and it's done. What do you mean? That's impossible. And you say, oh, it's not impossible. You train it enough, you can get it down. I'm just thinking about some crazy shit like general relativity or, how gravity works or wormholes, right? You know that like example of like how a wormhole exists. You have space, right? And let's say it's a plane. Obviously it's a three-dimensional plane because we live in 3 dimensions. But let's say you take a piece of paper, you make a 2-dimensional plane, you bend it over, and that's a wormhole, right? You have a hole on the top and bottom, and you can travel through space. But this space is light years apart, maybe hundreds of light years apart, right? But you bend it, and now those hundreds of light years are brought together. There's another thing. Quantum entanglement. That's interesting. Where you charge a particle with another particle to where it's in the same rotation or it's in the same alignment, and then you shoot one particle off, any amount of space away, hundreds of light years, thousands of light years, and you turn one particle, instantaneously the other particle will turn with it because they are quantum entangled, even though one is thousands of light years away. This concept is kind of like magic, kind of like time travel, but it is theoretically possible. So, let's say you're a fighter and you fight all day long, so much so that you don't have to think about it. The only thing you're thinking about is what you're about to do. So you're visualizing, I want to be there. My fist in his face. I want to be there. I'm not thinking about, okay, I need to rear back and I need to do this, I need to do that. I want to be there. Not here, there. What happens? You pull his face to your fist. It's like that, right? The action, which is, let's say it's 5 actions, you bring those 5 actions into one. Fist to face. There was a clip I saw of Andrew Schultz reacting to Israel Adesanya's fighting. And he said, I did my best to see his fist when he let it loose to hit the guy's face. It was like some anime shit, right? His fist was here and then it was at his face. I slowed it down to quarter speed and I could not see his fist in between. It was some jutsu type of stuff. And that's actually what got me talking here, because I think there's something to that, right? There's something to that. When you've practiced something enough, you can tap into the combination of actions. And it's almost like the 5 actions doesn't exist. All you have is the one. Because everything is happening simultaneously. It's almost like if you travel between 2 points in space, and the more you traveled, the more you cranked it. You cranked it together like a ratchet, right? You cranked it together until one day, you just go right there. But if you expand space to be what it actually is, this is not how space actually is. This is just what you trained it to be. Space is really right here. It looks like you're teleporting. It looks like you're teleporting from one place to another. To anybody who's watching, it looks like teleportation. But you're like, no, I made a wormhole. Everybody's like, what do you mean you made a wormhole? That doesn't make any sense. It makes perfect sense. You make wormholes all day long. Look at you, raising your hand above your head. That's a wormhole, right? You kind of get what I'm saying? I'll give you one final example. I don't know if you play Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. I do. There's two different play styles. There's mashing and smashing. There's playing the game of Smash, and then there's mashing. And when you're mashing, you're just hitting buttons. You're hitting what you think that needs to come next. I need to do this, right? I need to set up for this move and set up for this move. And you're thinking each of these individual actions in your head. This is not playing the game of Smash. Thinking so much about what you need to do next is how you lose. Because the fundamental aspect of Smash, in order to get good at Smash, you need to train yourself so much where you're not thinking about anything. You're pulling the trigger on oftentimes, some crazy things. Like you see people in tournament, like, why did he go for that? It doesn't make sense why in this moment he decided to go for this, but at every other moment he decided to go for something else. It's because he was playing Smash. I've played the game before where in an instant I read, like let's say Zero Suit was doing a kickflip. I'm like, in an instant I knew that they were going to do kickflip, and I was facing towards Zero Suit, but I knew that kickflip would land behind me. So I did instant turnaround up smash. Like such finite movements. I had to dash back I can't dash. If I dash, then I'm out of the range. I literally just have to barely twist my stick to where my character turns around, and then I have to go up really hard and A really hard. So it's like, right? It's a lot of minuscule things, but I knew I was gonna hit it. I knew I was gonna hit it before I hit it, and I had no time to think. No time to think, no time to perform the action. It was literally, oh, they're gonna boost kick. It's already done. I've already turned around and up smashed. And it's little moments like those where I realize, okay, there's something going on here. When I play like this, I win the game. I win Smash. When I don't play like this, my opponent plays like this, and they win the game. This is what Smash is all about. I don't know if you're following me. This is I don't know. This is shit that I like to think about. Maybe it's not interesting to anybody else.